shockwavesound.com.
Just like that, we are back, jamming in the studio, and right now we're going to get back into our top stories of the day, one of which includes Google, our old buddy Google. They're in it again, and last week we thought Facebook had this thing sewn up. Facebook was going to buy the company Waze for $1.1 billion, but according to a report that came out over the weekend, it looks like Google is throwing their hat in the ring too. And now we have Google and Facebook looking to buy Waze for about, same $1 billion. According to a report by Reuters, they said that Google Inc. is considering buying Israel's mobile satellite navigation startup Waze, which may lead to a bidding war against Facebook and Google. So Waze is seeking more than $1 billion in its fielding expressions of interest from multiple parties, according to a Bloomberg source. So they're according to Waze, more than just Google and Facebook is interested in buying the company. They didn't say which other companies are interested in, but they're saying they are taking offers from several suitors. Google and other parties approached Waze after Facebook talk became public, but none of the bidders are close to clinching a deal, according to a source by Bloomberg. They said that the startup might decide to remain independent. Waze could not immediately be reached for comment when this story broke, so there's nothing really coming from the Waze camp. But Waze is a company, as you know, that uses satellite signals from members' smartphones to generate maps and traffic data, which it then shares with other users, offering real-time traffic updates and info. And our very own Devin uses Waze. He uses it a lot. If he's stuck in traffic somewhere, he can update it, and anyone else using Waze is going to get that update. Now, my thought in this is that Google is not, they have the technology. Google has the technology to do everything that Waze does. So, it's one of those things where if you say, well, does this make financial sense for Google, as far as, is there something that Waze is bringing to the table that Google doesn't or can't do? It might more be accurate to say, is Google's acquisition of this company, are they seeing that this company is doing something that they don't have? Yes. But is buying this company something that Google has to do as far as they can't do what Waze does? No. So I have to think that this is probably a defensive move by Google, rather than have Facebook snatch up Waze. They get in the market and say, you know what, I just don't want anyone else to have that same ability that we have. In other words, you know, Waze was independent, a little company and stuff like that. But if Facebook gets it now, you know, Facebook has been just buying up these companies to become their own. It's like they're becoming their own conglomerate of services that they're going to be offering. And right now, they were set to buy Waze for $1 billion. I think Google heard about that, obviously, and Google said, you know what? No, we can't allow that. We can't allow Facebook to jump in the map navigation game. And so I think this is purely just a defensive move by Google. I don't think this is something that Google needs Waze, because they certainly, Google they have the technology to do what Waze does. It doesn't mean they're doing it, but they have the infrastructure in place to do. I mean, of course, Google Plus is not a very popular, you know, it's Google's social platform, but I wouldn't say it's a popular social platform at this time, especially not anywhere near the platform of Facebook. But as far as technology-wise, definitely Google can do exactly what Waze does. So I think this is a defensive move. Devin, what do you think about this news now that we're hearing Google has jumped into the ring and said, no, Waze, don't go to Facebook. We got money too.
Yeah, it's absolutely a defensive move, and it makes sense because really Google is the mother of all tracking.
Right. With their Google Earth and their Google Maps. I mean,
so in a sense, right, it's a defensive move, but it's also a logical move.
Right.
And the reason being, if they can attach, let me tell you, I use Waze
Quite a bit.
lot,
Right.
quite a bit, because it has information there that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And I'm talking about real-time information,
Right.
minute or to the second.
Right.
And if Google can do this, can make this happen, this will be a huge
Oh yeah.
move for them, because it will bring them into the social realm
Right.
through a different
Medium.
door,
Right.
through a different medium.
Right.
And this is an important medium. Most people spend a lot of time in their cars.
Yep.
And the fact that they would be tied into the social network while driving,
Right.
almost inadvertently, but with such a strong connection, because you need the tracking, you need the
Right.
navigational stuff, and while you're in it, you're navigating. It's a huge.
Exactly. And then and to put that under the Google umbrella now, to where Google is the one controlling it, and as consumers gravitate toward more and more mobile devices away from like laptops and desktops and things like that, Facebook, Google, and other companies are trying to beef up their efforts to court consumers that are on the go. Like you said, a lot of people spend a lot of time in the car. And so Google really wants to get that core group. I mean, they already have people with their Android and stuff like that. But like you said, not in addition to it being a defensive move, this is also a smart move for Google moving forward. Not that they couldn't do it themselves, but why would they, if they have an opportunity, they can do this, but then Facebook would be able to do it as well, and then they have the install base of Waze already. Google is looking at this and they're saying, okay, we want to do this, but we want to be able to control as much of it as possible. They're not going to be able to stop Facebook in the future from buying a company that's going to develop something like this. But for right now, this makes perfect sense because Waze is already used by millions of users already. And so to incorporate this into their Google Maps and their Google Earth, that real-time data, I'm saying, I mean, this is definitely something that Google is looking for. And they say none of the bidders is close to clinching the deal, and the talks, may fall apart, they said, but Waze may also walk away from the discussion as well and use more venture backing to expand its mapping program, which has more than 40 million users. And, because Waze could go to their shareholders and say, look, man, we're wanted.
Yeah.
Companies want us billions.
And they know why they want it.
Exactly. So
they want it because of the social aspect
of their mapping service.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so they can not necessarily demand, but they can go to their board of directors, shareholders, and say, look, man, we need to pump more money into this thing because companies want us. You see? So, I mean, it's all kind of ways this thing can go, and maybe this was Waze's, maybe this was their ploy from the beginning. Maybe they never really meant to sell the company, but they put themselves on the market to see what kind of interest they would get. And right away, Facebook jumped on them and started saying, look, man, we're going to offer you $1 billion, because Facebook is not a stranger to spending money. I mean, Instagram, they bought for $1 billion, and that company was only about 2 years old and whatnot, and Facebook jumped in with $1 billion for that.
I think they had that billion in the reserve account. That was their main account. They just pulled it out of their reserve account.
And the thing is, it seems like $1 billion is a sweet spot. Everyone is offering $1 billion. Remember before when it used to just be, a few hundred million. Everyone is now $1 billion is the magic number. Billion is the magic number. So we're gonna wait and see. We're gonna wait and see if this actually turns into something big. Because this definitely, I mean, if Google can snap up Waze, if Facebook snaps up Waze, either one of these companies that gets this company, it's going to build them into a much bigger brand because of what Waze brings to the table. At Facebook, they're already a social platform juggernaut, and for them to add this to their service. I mean, that's just, I mean, people who don't really, I mean, there have been reports that the younger generation have been moving away from Facebook because, you know, their parents are on Facebook. So obviously, if the parents are doing something, right away the children are going to say, oh, this can't be cool. My dad is on Facebook? Nah, man, I'm out of here. You know, and they're going to more Instagram and stuff like that. But guess what? Instagram is still Facebook. You see? So even though what Facebook did with Instagram is genius because they didn't take the company over and absorb it into Facebook. They allowed Instagram to still be an independent company, still use the name Instagram, but they're under the Facebook umbrella. So if you think you're running away from Facebook, going to Instagram, you're still under that Facebook umbrella. It's just not called Facebook. It's kind of like leaving Toyota for Lexus. You haven't left Toyota. You know what I'm saying? You just went to their luxury brand. That's all. So we have to wait and see, you know, what's happening with this with this acquisition right here. In other news, we've been talking last week. You know, we talked about Microsoft and the Xbox One. We talked about that, and right now we're gonna get into the fact that Microsoft, and we're gonna talk about this after the break as well. That Microsoft has decided that because one of the biggest things that we here at Tech Pulse we were concerned about is how was Microsoft going to solve, not necessarily solve because there wasn't a problem, but the problem as far as used games for Microsoft came in the fact that much more people buy games used than they do new. Now you might say, well, how can you buy a game used if someone didn't buy it new? Yes, but that one used game, here's the problem that Microsoft and other companies had. When I buy a game new, right? Devin goes into GameStop. I buy it new. I'm finished with the game. I go into GameStop, sell it. Devin goes into GameStop and buys that same game used. He finishes it, carries it back to GameStop. Ariana goes into there and buys that same game used. You know, she gets done with it, puts it back to GameStop. Then Anne-Marie goes in there and buys the same game used. So that one game, GameStop made 3 sales on that one game. Whereas Microsoft only got the one sale initially. They got the one sale with it new and that was it. So definitely you can have used games being bought a whole lot more than new games. And that was what Microsoft is seeing. They look at GameStop and they look at their revenue and they look at their net profit and they're saying, man, GameStop is making hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, you go into those stores, you wouldn't think GameStop is making any money because those stores, you know, I mean, they have one guy in there and you come early twice and immediately you're a manager. You know, that's how GameStop is run. You know what I'm saying? And so you have these people in there, you know, you have this narrow hall and then games all around. And it looks like, man, this place must make $1 a day or something like that. But they make hundreds, literally hundreds of millions of dollars in profit per year on their used games. Microsoft saw that. Sony is seeing that. And when they came up with their new system now, their mindset was, we have to tap into those dollars. We have to make it to where either we somehow can control it, and that was a concern for gamers. A concern for gamers because gamers don't want to suffer from this, and definitely a concern at GameStop. So coming up after the break, we're going to talk more about Microsoft and their solution to the used game situation, and also what gamers asked about the PlayStation 4. The same thing. What did gamers say to the PlayStation, to Sony about that? So we're going to come right back after these messages and talk more about the game industry. Stay tuned.